Are you a real estate agent and you're trying to find out how can you show your buyers homes and not have to always be present? Or how do you have more buyers and service them, but you're only just one person, right? Because we all know in this industry, you only can service so many clients, especially when it comes to buyers. You're traveling around doing all these things. Well, I'm going to talk about in today's episode how I do that, the system I go about to set up my clients to where I don't always have to be present. And honestly, a lot of times I'm not even present and I don't have a team. I don't have showing agents. I am literally just an individual agent who does this. I'm going to share with you right now. So as you can see, it is insanely hot. I am now in my new home of Florida. And just like I remember from the past living here, it is extremely hot, but that's all good. So I wanted to have today's episode just be a real quick one. And it's just like, as real estate agents, like we only have so much time. And so many of us don't have a business, we have a job. And that's something I've noticed where, how do you find a way to get leverage? How do you get time back in your life? Well, I did a lot of I've gone through a lot of pains, right? Like I've been the agent working all the time. Like someone's like, oh, I need to see a home. I'm like, I figure out, I'm like, oh my God, I gotta go there. I gotta show them the home right now. I gotta be there. I gotta hurry up because if I don't get there, it's the end of the world, right? Well, I figured out a way now where I structure all of the clients I have. And I show them, like from A to Z, how the process works, why I do what I do, how me doing it the way I do it benefits them, right? It's not just about me, it's about them. And the first thing you need to remember before you figure out how to leverage it, like when it comes to buyers, is like you have to understand that, it all starts with like a client journey. Like the whole purpose is like from A to Z, you have to have a good journey about how you're taking that client from initial meeting to closing. And honestly, even beyond, all right? So when like me not being involved in showings with my clients always starts in the beginning. So what I do is I sit down, we'll have a conversation in the beginning as, the buyer consultation and be like, all right, what, the typical stuff. What are they trying to do? Where are they trying to go? Can I help them? All right. Once that's established, and they were like, yep, you're the guy. You're the one that we're going to use to help us in this process. I do the same thing with everyone. It's like, all right, so now's the time for me to tell you about my process, right? Like when you fly a plane, the pilot's not serving you drinks in the back, right? It's the stewardesses. Well, in my business and when I help you, I'm the pilot. My goal is to make sure that you get to your destination safely and exactly where you want to go. Everything in between, I have people to help me handle that process. Okay? So like one thing I love to do as well is I always have them sign a buyer agreement, right? Every single state has different names. I'm licensed in 2 different states. They all have different names. What you need to know is there's an agreement you're signing that says, hey, just so you know, I'm held to you, you are held to me, right? One, this protects you as the agent in case they decide to go rogue and try and use a different agent. Or 2, it also just, it has some, to me, it's professional, right? Like you're signing an agreement. Because it's not just about holding them to you, it's vice versa, right? It's like, hey, I am here to help you, and this agreement is stating that fact. Like the roles I have, the roles I need to uphold, right? So I tell all my clients, look, when it comes to finding homes, nowadays, information's everywhere, okay? I'm gonna find homes, you're gonna find homes, right? And while I specialize in off-market properties, understand that it's not always gonna come from there. And for the ones that are on market, honestly, nowadays people can see that information themselves. So where's my value? My value is consulting you on is it a good purchase? Or not so much if they should, that's a bad way to put it. It's not, I'm not steering my clients. It's not so much like, is it a good purchase, but showing them like, hey, take note of this. Like, hey, that water heater's old. Hey, watch this. Hey, you need to understand that these are some issues I recommend that you focus on when it comes to this home, right? Like that's where I push my clients to be is like, look, my job is to like really understand real estate and to advise you through that process. Right, like, hey, take note of this. Hey, be careful, because I noticed on the street when we were driving in, I noticed X, Y, and Z. Take note of that when you make your decision on whether you should offer on this house, right? Things like that. And I let them know, like, hey, when it comes to seeing homes, like physically getting into homes, like it's not just about me getting out there and me doing it, right? It's about, hey, I'm gonna get you into homes, and the guy will be present. But a lot of times, right, I have other clients, I have kids, I have family. If for some reason that home that you absolutely love comes on market and I'm not available, I am not going to be the reason you cannot see that home. And they were like, wow, that makes complete sense, Cameron. Like, why? I can't argue against that, right? Like, why do I want to be the reason they can't get into a home? And as an agent, I'm sure you've done that before, where you go to a client's like, hey, like, can you be this Saturday at this time? And you're like, oh, no, I can't. And then you're scrambling with the listing agent to when you get in the property, it's a mess, right? So one of the simplest solutions I tell them is like, look, if a property has an open house, you are free to go. And I let them know, like, understand, the agent that's at that open house, their sole goal is to take you away from me. And obviously, it's my job to make sure I'm giving so much value that you continue to use me. So I understand how that works, right? But understand that sometimes when homes at open houses, like, it might be part of our journey, and I'm physically there in person, seeing the open house. A lot of times, I'll have you go to the open house, or if a property doesn't have an open house, I use an app called Showami. So as an agent, if you haven't heard of this before, there's a lot of different ones. Showami is an app that you just go on, you schedule the showing, or you don't schedule the showing, you go either way. And you choose like whether it's like $30, $50, $100, and you just put it out into the app. And another agent says, hey, I will get your client into that home. And that's it. And that's one of the greatest solutions I found is using the app. I use it all the time. Heck, one of the clients I had in January, I showed them one house, because I always do an initial meeting. If for some reason I've never met a client physically in person, I always do at least one physical meeting. You have to meet them in person. Like, look, I've tried to avoid it. I've tried to stay away from it. But the reality is when it comes to clients and people, you have to meet them in person at least once. You have to build that connection. So when I showed that client that house, we saw the initial house, and then it went through 2 weekends of showings between open houses and me getting a couple showing agents and getting them into properties that didn't have showing agents. They found a house, and they're like, we want to offer on this one. We made an offer. I didn't even see that house in person, aside from the agent that gave me a full feedback. Because remember, these aren't just random people on this app. There are other agents who are just picking this up for side jobs, right? And one thing I always do with those agents is I always call them before they meet my clients. Sometimes if you do like a certain agent, you can give it to them inside the app. Honestly, I would go outside the app if I was you. Like if they're that good, just build a relationship on the outside. But because the app does take their piece. But what you want to do is like I always call them up and I always like instruct them like, hey, this is what the client needs. Keep in mind of this. Hey, give me a call when you're done. Let me know what the house looked like, right? And then I coach them through it how I expect to get feedback and make sure they're advising my clients the right way just for that showing. And my clients understand they're not there for their agent, they're there just to get them in the home, right? So, and I've always had amazing people on the app, every time. Like the agents that are on there, like they're hungry, like they're professional. I've never had an issue so far, people on the app. Sometimes I have had last minute cancellations with agents. That's a little frustrating, but hey, that's business, that's life. If you're an agent who you start to get a little heavy on showings, like I might be here in Orlando coming up soon, what I like to do is I like to actually go out in the world and personally find, like you don't have to create a full real estate team. You can easily create like just a relationship with an agent saying, hey, you know, I'll pay you $50, $100 per door. Sometimes if you are having that level of business, personally for me, if I'm closing under 20 deals a year, you can just do it yourself or use Showami to help you. But if you're closing more than 20 deals a year, a lot of those buyers, what I would do personally is I would actually start a team. And brokerages like EXP, you don't need to be a broker, right? Start a team, go out there. And then what I would do is I'd probably do like a $30, $50, $100 per door with a couple $1,000 closing commission for the agent, right? So I'll be like, hey, like you're gonna be the second agent on this, because EXP, I can choose how much the second agent gets paid by the agreement. So the team agreement I would do in place would be, you know, like $50 per door that they show, paid up front, and then they have like $1,000 to $2,000 on the back end for closing, because you need incentive for the deal, right? The goal is like everyone who joins me on my team, our goal at Agency on the Armed Forces, our goal is to get them to 6 figures. Because if I bring someone on the team, and like, I'm not looking to let them make chump change like 30, 50 grand a year. I'm sorry, it's just not what I'm trying to do. So if I actually start a full team, my intention is to give them as much business as possible. And who knows, maybe they'll go from showing agent to lead agent, who knows, right? The goal is like any other business and companies, you want them to get better and better and better. You want the A team, you want to build machines. That's what you want to do, at least the way I look at it. But if you're an agent who feels overwhelmed with showings, I encourage you to just start with Showami. Just give it a try. It's going to feel uncomfortable. The first time you go to hand off a showing, you're not physically there, it's going to make you uncomfortable. You're going to feel weird about it. You're going to be like, man, I'm not there physically. There's no way this is a good service. I promise you, if you do it the right way and you let your clients know beforehand, it will be okay. I promise you. I promise you. Now, obviously, I do have certain clients I can't do that with, right? Now, if it's an investor, sure, I can do a show-amy. I can make sure the person goes through the home and walks through with it, so I can still use it. A lot of times for like certain clients, like investors, or maybe if you have first-time home buyers, certain clients, sure, like it's just not going to work. Personally, I'm very flexible with that. The reason I use show-amy is because I am so heavily focused on my investor clients and seeing property in person that it just doesn't make sense for me to do regular showings all the time because I got too much going on, right? I got way too much. I got 3 boys. I have my wife. I have other activities going on, businesses. Like I'm just too busy. I need to leverage myself out. And like what's funny is when I joined the industry, they told me, like, oh, you can take like as many listings as possible in 1 month, but you only can service a couple buyers. Well, I can tell you in today's modern age, I think that's a little shit, just to be frank. Because the reality is with technology like show-amy and there's a couple other ones, or like how many agents are hungry enough to where like if I joined the industry, I would have taken like the per door, like in the commission at closing. Hell, I was getting paid jack shit when I joined, right? Working as an ISA for my first broker. Like in reality of like the money flowing through real estate, it was not that much. I'm very grateful for it. It built me to where I am today, but it's not something I would have done long term. Like it just wasn't there. But, it's gonna feel weird, but like I'm telling you, like if you're feeling burnt out, if you feel like you're just stretching yourself thin or you're really heavy on buyers, like there's a progression to this. Start with a showing agent using the app. Maybe you get heavy enough to where you build a relationship, and then who knows, maybe it progresses even further and you actually have to create a team with showing agents to help you. There's nothing saying you have to have a full real estate team in this industry. Absolutely not. I do think the age of the individual agent is coming to a close. That doesn't mean as an individual agent you can't be together. I am looking to do, hopefully in the next month before he deploys, I'm looking to get on this podcast my partner, and we're going to talk about why we joined together. It's going to be a long one. It's probably going to be a 2-hour podcast, honestly, and we're just going to sit down, we're just going to talk about everything. Because it's in this industry, I do feel the individual agent's getting pressured on. I feel like it's one of those things that's starting to disappear, whether it's being forced or just how the market is. And for those of you that want to stay autonomous and want to do your own thing, things like using this leverage and like using, that's what I call my buyer system, is getting in position, leveraging yourself to give you more time to do other activities. Every little bit helps. And I'm telling you that, like, don't be in a scarcity mindset to where you're too afraid to pay showing agents, because I promise you, when you hand off those showings and it just happens and you realize that the house didn't burn down, your client's still with you, you will be amazed. You're like, wow, how much more is possible? Because that's how I was. And I promise you that if you're in that position, you're stressed, don't be nervous about it. It'll be okay. Just understand that you need to make smart decisions. Make sure you need to start making those small changes, because if you're an individual agent, heck, you can even be on a team. Who gives a crap, right? But understand that, hey, like getting your time back is something that is so precious and you just can't get enough of. So don't let anyone tell you that you're stuck to this many buyers or this many whatever, right? I don't give a crap. I'm telling you that if you follow the system, you will be okay. And if you're looking to learn exactly step by step how I do my entire buy process, including contracts and everything, you can always go down the link below. I have access to our course that'll be out here in the next month, Target Agents Blueprint. It's how I do everything in my business to be where I am today. And we are more than happy to have you part of that community, and I would love to have you go out there. You can even reach out to me at the number below if you have any questions at all. I don't care if it's about business, life. I'm not a smart man. I consider myself a big idiot just walking around asking questions. But hey, maybe if you have a question, maybe I have the answer, or even if you want to get in touch with me about the course, I don't care. That number is always down below. So reach out if you need me, and if not, look forward to seeing you in the next episode.